What's up, everyone? Let's jump into a new build video. Today we're working on an 8-gallon tank for my White Cloud Mountain Minnows. I've got everything from a local fish store here called the Fish Room in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm using the paper towel super glue method to lock this wood in place on the driftwood. I want to make sure that this driftwood does not float. I have boiled it. I waterlogged it for a little while. So I'm hoping these two rocks will hold it down in place. Spoiler alert, they do not, but I will show you how I fix that at the end of this video. So again, it's cyanoacrylate. That was a tough one. Liquid super glue. Will not affect water parameters, will not affect the fish or the plants or anything inside the tank itself, and it really keeps stuff locked together. So once I get those stones locked in place, we're going to move to the plants here. Up first is this Busa philandra, one of my favorite busas. I love the color on this. And we're just going to remove it from the pot and take off the rock wall. This is one of the easiest rock wall removals I've ever had when it comes to plants. Boom, bam, done. Rock wall's off. And now I'm going to try and figure out where I want to put this on the driftwood itself. For this piece of driftwood, it's going to be sitting kind of as you see in the tank there. I already had a pretty good idea where I wanted to put that Anubias. So I'm looking for a place to, was hoping to just push this into some cracks. Unfortunately, at the top where I wanted it, there was not a spot for me to wedge the roots in. So I'm going to hide these roots kind of behind the wood itself. And then again, using a little bit of super glue, I'm going to lock that into place and keep it right where I want it on the log itself. The plants that I'm attaching to this driftwood are epiphytes. They pull all of their nutrients out of the water column itself, so they actually don't need the roots buried in any sort of soil or sand. They're perfectly fine just hanging out on wood or rocks or wherever you decide to put them in the tank. I do get this piece of boost locked in, and we're going to switch over to the Anubias now. So happy with the placement of that, and we're going to move on to this Anubias. Beautiful plant that I found at our fish store here. And same thing, remove from the pot, take this rock wall off. This rock wall was a little bit of a pain in the butt. The roots were really grown into it. So one of the methods I use, which you won't see in this one, but you'll see in the Pinto, the next plant I do here, is actually a fork to remove as much of that rock wall off of the roots as I can. You don't need to remove it all, but it is really nutrient heavy. And so you want to do your best to make sure you're getting that rock wall off. And that's what I'm doing here. And then once we have that rock wall off, we're going to find a spot. And I kind of showed already where I want that to go. With this one, I was able to really lock it in. I only had to use a tiny bit of super glue to get that to stay, but there's a really nice like hole within the wood itself to wedge that plant into. So got most of this rock wall off, found out where I wanted to go, and I'm going to go ahead and loop the roots through that hole in the front that you see here and get that locked into place. Again, only having to use a tiny bit of super glue to get that positioned exactly where I want it. Once we get this locked in, we're moving to my third and final epiphyte on the driftwood here. And this is an Anubias Pinto, which you'll see in just a moment. Holy big head, Batman. Where did that come from? Locked in, looks good right there. One of the things I do while I'm building, and everyone should be doing, make sure you are keeping your plants moist. So grab a water bottle, give them a little spritz. Also helps set the super glue rather quickly. So we'll keep those plants moist and move on to the next plant here. And here is the Anubias Pinto. This plant, again, another one of my favorites. I just love the leaves and the not only the texture but also the look with like the white and green contrast. Again, the rock wall on this one was kind of a pain in the butt. It looks like, oh, this is going to be simple, but it is really embedded into these roots here. So we do that fork trick, grab a fork and just scrape out as much of it as we can. Rock wall is removed. And this one, again, I know exactly where this is going to go. There's a nice little spot on the right-hand side here, and I'm going to place that directly into that crack. I actually don't need to use any super glue for this one. I'm able to just kind of wedge it, keep it in place, and that's where that will stay in this. And that is the completed hardscape for this tank. I was thinking about doing some moss, but I really like the way this wood looks, so decided to forego the moss and just keep it with those plants. So here we are moving to the tank. I've got a Lominie A20 Freshwater for the light. My favorite hang on the back filter is the AC20 from AquaClear, and I'm using a substrate from UNS, the Fine Mojave. Once I get that substrate in exactly where I like, or sand, the Contrasand, the substrate I'm using underneath is also from UNS. It's my favorite substrate. And then the sand is that Fine Mojave. I get the wood placed where I want it. Again, we're going to moisten everything down and moving on to planting our background and foregrounds. This is Limnophila. I'm putting this in front of the filter. Going to speed this up because there's a lot. If I didn't do this, it'd be about a 50-minute video. So Limnophila goes into place. Really hoping that's going to grow out. I'll get that cut. And then we're moving on to the Cryptocrine, which will go on the other side of the tank. And I picked this one because of the just gorgeous texture of the leaves. I think it's beautiful and it will grow really tall and look really nice in this particular tank. So we get that in and we're going to move to our foreground / mid-ground plants. After we, again, don't forget, keep your plants moist. They don't want to dry out. So give them another spray. And moving on to the Eleocharis, which is like a grass. And I really like this one. I'm using two different types of like grass in the tank itself. Both different textures will look very different in the tank. And broke this up into a bunch of different little pieces to really maximize kind of the coverage and hopefully help it spread a little bit quicker. And up next is the Sagittaria. I'm probably butchering the names of every single one of these. But again, we'll just randomly put this throughout the tank. These will send out runners and really fill in fairly quickly. So we're going to get those planted. And once we get it planted, you're going to see it. I forgot to film the fill up, but this is the tank full. We're going to be putting in some API AquaClear to clear up the cloudiness. And I will also be putting in some beneficial bacteria to help with getting the tank and that water really ready for these fish. I did dechlorinate off screen because I used tap water to fill. And API AquaClear and the seed is going to go in. You'll kind of see the water get a little bit more misty. That is the API pulling together all of those fine particles, making it so they can be sucked out by the filter. And next shot here is going to be the tank in the morning. So I have the fish in. We're doing a test of the water parameters here because I did put the fish in already. And the reason I did that is because I had some filter media from two other tanks that already has a ton of beneficial bacteria. I also have a peace lily that I put in that was in another tank with a ton of beneficial bacteria. And water parameters actually look really good. pH is between the 7.2 and 7.6. We've got the nitrite at 0. My nitrates are also going to be 0. And the ammonia is between 0 and 0.25. I do a small water change to kind of deal with that. I add a little bit more of the beneficial bacteria, and then I just let it go. And these fish, or because I already have these two filter sponges in the back, you can kind of see them. I'm not worried about my water too much. I will test it daily for the first week and a half, and then switch that to about every other day the following week. But as you can see, I did put a rock on the driftwood because it decided to float up on me after I got everything in. So we've got a rock in place, and 5 of the White Cloud Mountain Minnow are already in the tank and loving it. They have had no issues feeding, swimming around, very energetic, really nice schooling. And overall, I'm super pleased with this tank. Brand new home for these guys. Moved them out of a 5-gallon into this 8-gallon, and they are already loving it and doing really well. I will continue to post updates throughout the course of the first 2 weeks as we start adding some shrimp, potentially some autos for cleaning up the glass. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a long one for TikTok. If you did and you made it all the way to the end, please like it, hit that follow button. It's a huge help. I appreciate you guys for watching, and enjoy these fish.